I did not know until I was in my 40s that corporate America is actually just a game. And there are rules to playing the game that I didn't know. So I kind of wake up one day and realize, oh my gosh, all the people that are moving to certain levels in the organization, they're all operating from a different playbook. I believed that you go to college, you get your degree, you go to work, you exceed expectations, you take on more responsibility, you get promoted, and everything's great. And that just keeps going. That is not how it works. I did not realize until my 40s that all the people that were really moving and advancing and getting the influence and getting the promotions, they were the ones that were operating by this playbook. But I was just so busy working. That's the truth of the matter is I was so busy working. I didn't play the game. Now I've started playing the game and it's beautiful. It is so fun. It is so stinking fun because I'm aware.
Welcome to Unmute with Priya, the podcast where silence ends, voices rise, and women rediscover the freedom to speak and live authentically, especially in life after 40. This show is proudly sponsored by Project Icon. I'm your host, Priya Sudarsanam. Let's dive into today's conversation. Today on Unmute with Priya, we are speaking with Robin Goad. She is a powerhouse technology executive at Amazon Web Services, speaker, and a coach who helps ambitious women master the corporate game without losing themselves. She's a mother of four, a grandmother, and a brand new author, and really the embodiment of speaking up and unmuting and finding your voice at midlife. So Robin, I'm really excited to talk with you today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Pri. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, let's talk about your book because congratulations, first of all. And the book is Girl by Birth, Woman by Fire. What an amazing and powerful title. How did you come up with that title?
Isn't that a great title?
Yes.
So in February, like 1 year ago, I hired a publisher and I've never written a book. It wasn't even on my list of things that I wanted to do. But my daughter was pregnant with my first grandson and she was about to have him. He was born in February and, she got the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. Like all mothers that I had it when I was pregnant with her 30 years ago, right? And I joked one day and I said, isn't it funny that we have a 400-page book for 9 months of our life telling us every single little thing that is happening? And where's that book for the other 85 years of our life?
Right.
And I decided, you know what? I'm going to write it. And when I hired the publisher, they wanted to know, what do we think this title should be? They said, it's really important we have a working title because everything needs to kind of point back to that working title. We argued for a month over the title and I was asleep. And at 3:30 in the morning, I wake up, Girl by Birth, Woman by Fire, the Get Real Guide to Becoming the Woman You Were Meant to Be. And I texted it straight away so I wouldn't forget. I grabbed my phone, texted it, and everybody, the marketing team, the authors, the publishing, the whole team of people, there were like 4 of us that were on my core team. Everybody agreed on that title and said, that's it. That's perfect. So I believe that it was a divine message that I had to be asleep to get. And then that became the title and we all rallied around it. And I love it. There's nothing better than, thinking about being a girl by birth, but woman by fire and what that means. And man, you just say the title and women everywhere, they just light up, quite frankly, because they all have been through it. They've all been through it. And it isn't about not going through the fire. It's just about what does that fire do? You can be refined. You can become more beautiful. You just don't want to smell like smoke, right? Nobody wants to come out of the fire smelling like smoke. And so anyway, I love the title. Thank you for loving it too. That means a lot.
And I love what you said about becoming the woman that we're meant to be, because I think that's That's, we're born into this world. We have culture, we have society, we have our own families, all of these things. And it takes, you start entering perimenopause, which coincides. And then you're like, who am I? And then you come out, hopefully finding out who you really are. So I love it. So let's talk about your motivation around the book. You said that your life was forged in fire. What was the moment when you realized that you couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine?
I've had many of those moments. I wouldn't just say that it's been one, but I think, and so let me tell you how I wrote the book, because thinking about it'll kind of explain the thought process and how I organized it. And then I'll answer in that how I figured all this out. Because my heart's desire is to go back and grab Robin at 25. Right. And say, let me tell you, sister, everything that you are going to go through, all the lessons, let me be your guide on this journey. And I really wanted to exactly what you said. You're born into this life, you're born into this family, and you don't know. You could be born into the best family in the world, and you could be born into a really jacked up family, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't know any different. You just absorb everything that is thrown at you. And so part one of the book is about relationships. And it's about the relationships that you were born into. What did I learn as a child? What did I learn as an adolescent? Were those things useful and beneficial, or were they really some bad, toxic things that I had to unlearn? Then based on that, it's oftentimes who you marry or who you choose to do life with. That can be messed up if the first part I just talked about isn't healthy, right? Of course, I was born into a jacked up family. I created a jacked up family. So the very first time that I realized, but I became very good at pretending. So in a very young age, I became very good at pretending that everything was okay and appearances are all that matters. And so I learned that the more I could perform and create an outward appearance, then nobody really looked behind the curtain. And so my first time that I realized I can't live this way, I was 9 years into my first marriage, and I was having a nervous breakdown, and I was a corporate gal, and I had just had an affair on my husband, and I had an alcoholic, abusive core family. So I married someone who, of course, was not very nice to me. And after a certain point, I couldn't take it anymore. I started having an emotional affair with someone at work. People asked me, what was it about that guy at your office? I said, he was nice to me. He said I was smart. He said I was pretty, and he asked my opinion, and he listened to me. It wasn't rocket science. I mean, it wasn't anything over the top extravagant. It was an emotional affair, quite frankly, for a year. And so anyway, after that, I was telling somebody this yesterday, that if I think back to that moment, here I was in a very unhealthy marriage with a man who did not treat me very well. I had an emotional affair for a year. I had a physical affair one night, and I'm begging this man to not leave me. I come clean. I tell him about the affair. I beg him not to leave me. And I think about the irony of that now. Like, I was in this horrible marriage for 9 years. I go find somebody that talks nice to me and is sweet and nice to me. And then here I'm the one begging this guy that I'm married to not leave me.
Wow.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It's crazy, and it resonates because I've done it and people that I speak to have done it. So in your opinion, because I have my theories too, why do we do this? What is it, do you think, that makes us?
I don't know. I had 2 kids. So there was that component that, I came from a broken family, divorced family. I didn't want to be divorced. I wanted to stay married. And so we did for a little while, but you can't hold it together.
Yeah.
It's going to break, right?
Yeah.
And so my very first breakthrough when I realized I couldn't keep living the way I was living was, I call it a nervous breakthrough instead of a nervous breakdown.
Oh, I love
But
that.
it was the first time in my life that I called a girlfriend of mine and I said, do you still have a key under your flower pot at your cabin on the river? She said, yes. I said, do you mind if I go out there for a few days? I drove out to the cabin and I took a book. I don't even remember the name of the book, but it was a Dr. Phil book.
Okay.
And it was about defining moments in your life. And it started out by saying, write down 5 defining moments in your life. And what I basically learned at this point in time, and I was probably in my 30s, was that there were a lot of lies I believed growing up as a child that weren't true. I believed that I was unlovable because my mother married this abusive alcoholic. And I just thought that if my own mother did not love me enough to protect me, then I must be unlovable. Now there was a whole lot of other data and a lot of other facts that showed how much she did love me, but that core, right, that core belief, it took root. And so I laid in the fetal position in this cabin, really coming to grips with, okay, for the first time in my life, I can finally acknowledge I did not believe I was worthy of being loved. And
Wow.
so I had to name that and replace that with the truth. And the truth is absolutely not. I am absolutely worthy of being loved. And I does not, I mean, I deserve it, right? I'm
Right.
a
Right.
human. I deserve to be loved and appreciated and valued. So that marriage ended. I continued my performance in corporate America. I ended up marrying for a second time, and I married the exact opposite. It could not have been further from my first husband, but you know, I think I write about this in my book when I say that I was like Goldilocks. You know, one side was way too hard, one side was way too soft.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
went whatever opposite was. I don't even say this in the book too. It really didn't matter who I married, to be honest with you. I was so broken that I could have married the most wonderful man in the world, and I did not know how to receive love. I did not know how to be valued. I just couldn't accept it. And so I started after my second marriage fell apart. That's when I really started, and that was like 39. And now I have 4 kids. I have 2 more kids. So now I am 4 children, single, 2 marriages, 2 divorces. And I just said, you know, I am just not, my picker is broken and I am not the marrying type.
Yeah.
And I just poured everything into me getting healthy, me getting well, and focusing on my work. And quite frankly, having 4 kids, working for a large Fortune 100 company, managing a global sales organization. I had plenty. I mean, I had enough to keep me busy. So that kept me busy
Amazing.
for a while.
Yeah, and you talk about that journey of growth, and I mean, I recorded with someone yesterday, and she talks about the destruction. And when you're having these awakening moments, or going through midlife, or going through these periods, it's destructive. But from destruction, you come out in a different version. It gives you permission to rebuild. And it sounds like from what you did, you allowed yourself to go through that destruction, or that dissolution of that old, so that you could become who you're meant to be. And this is this author who's going to change lives with this book. So that's amazing. And one thing that you said that totally resonates with me is about getting into relationships, especially because this is what you focus on as one part in your book. I came from a good family. Love was never really emphasized, and that's what I searched for in people. So they could have been the worst person in the world, horrible, mean. But if they said I loved you, you had me. And I stayed in it because of that. So I think this is going to speak to a lot of women who find themselves in that situation, that you're just staying in, or you're in situations for this one little piece of you that you think it's fulfilling. And meanwhile, it's not. It's actually.
I actually joke, my husband, that my third and final and forever husband, who, thank God, honestly, if it weren't for him being strong enough to really hold me I don't know if holding me is the right visual, but when I started dating my husband, I was sitting next to him on the couch and my dad walked by and my dad patted me. And this is my real biological dad, not my abusive stepdad. And he patted me on the head and he said, you know, Robin, it's really nice to see you be a girl. And I didn't know what he meant entirely, but I think I knew what he meant. And I had never been with anyone that was stronger than me because I had always been the survivor, the strong one. I was an only child. I took care of my mom when she was the one being abused by my stepdad. And so surviving and holding it all together and being the one in charge, that had been the role that I had assumed. And my husband was stronger than me, and I needed somebody stronger than me. For the first time in my life, I would sit down next to a man and exhale. I didn't feel the weight of the world. I didn't feel like I had to do it all. That's what my dad, he said, it's really nice to see you be a girl. But what he meant, I know what he meant. It was really, it's so nice to see you let go. It's so nice to see you lean into someone. It's so nice to see you trust someone else. And I talk about this story in one of my books. My husband, I had never had somebody say no to me. Like my husband's like, look, I'm not going to always make decisions that you agree with.
So your
And I'm
husband
like,
said no to you.
I said, yes, you have to agree. And he said, no, but here's what you have to decide, Robin. He said, what you have to know about me is that every decision I make, I am thinking about what is best for you. And oftentimes you might not agree with the decision I'm making, but I promise you my intent is that this is the best thing for you. And it came up because I had this dysfunctional family. I had 4 kids, 2 ex-husbands, and my husband came in and he started protecting me. And that did not go well with 2 ex-husbands and 4 children and my mother who was used to getting her way in my life. So my husband comes in and he starts putting up boundaries and he starts protecting his wife.
Right.
And I had a family that didn't really like that a whole lot. And so it caused this great conflict. And he said, you're going to have to decide, can you trust me? And it was another moment when I almost ruined it. I almost divorced him. I almost divorced him because he caused so much discomfort in the crazy ecosystem that we had created. But I had a good friend and I was telling her the story and she spoke truth. She said, Robin, I have to tell you, honey, you're wrong. You're wrong here. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are you talking about wrong? And she said, he's right. Everything he's trying to do for you, I know you don't like it and it's uncomfortable and it's causing a lot of issues in your family, but he's right. You're wrong. And you better not screw this up.
And that was a turning point for you.
Yep.
Amazing.
Big one. Good friend
Wow.
Stephanie. I write about her in the book.
Oh, so back to the book. I mean, there's just sounds like there's so much, and because you also address vocation and career, and also health.
Yeah.
And even within health, there's multiple categories, subcategories. Could you tell us a little bit more about those categories?
The vocation is really, about the career. It's I did not know until I was in my 40s that corporate America is actually just a game, and it is a game. And there are rules to playing the game that I didn't know. So I kind of wake up one day and realize, oh my gosh, all the people that are moving to certain levels in the organization, they're all operating from a different playbook. I believed that you go to college, you get your degree, you go to work, you exceed expectations, you take on more responsibility, you get promoted, and everything's great. And that just keeps going. That is not how it works. And I did not realize until my 40s that all the people that were really moving and advancing and getting the influence and getting the promotions, they were the ones that were operating by this playbook. And that playbook now, once my eyes got open to it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so obvious. How did you not, but I was just so busy working. That's
So
the truth of the matter is I was so busy working.
Yeah.
I didn't play the game.
Wow.
Now I've started playing the game and it's beautiful. It is so fun. It is so stinking fun because I'm aware. Once you have awareness and you know the rules, then you get to make choices and you get to engage or not engage. And you just feel so powerful. Because in the past, I was just working my butt off, killing myself, being disappointed. I always was compensated well. That was one positive thing, is that because in my career, I did exceed goals. I did get promoted. I mean, I did get promoted. I did fine. But I think, God, if I would have known these rules back in my 30s or my late 20s, I would have had a much better career. And it would have been so enjoyable because now I'm controlling the situation because I'm playing by the rules. And so that actually makes this corporate system that I'm in fun because I can control that part.
That's really good to know because in my mind, never working in corporate, I've always had I don't want to say negative. Yeah, I guess negative connotation image around it or cutthroat. And it's just a really, but you're really helping us understand it could be fun.
It can. But just like every game, think about if you were going to go play golf or you were going to go play pickleball or you were going to go play any game, you would never go play that game and not say, what are the rules? But we go into this thing called corporate America and we don't know what the rules are. And we just start playing. And we just start playing and hitting the ball all the different ways, thinking, that we're going to get ahead. The thing I like to tell folks is this: find your superpower. If you can get your superpower identified, and I didn't know my superpower until I was 40. And it was when I was the chief marketing officer for an AI company and my chief operating officer, but we were sitting at a table and he said, Robin, you have got an uncanny ability to how things go together. And he's like, and you can develop a strategy on how to go make all those things work. And then you go execute. And he said, you generally don't find people that are really good at strategy and really good at execution. He said, but you have both. And that is a unicorn. That's what I would call a unicorn. But when you have natural gifts and talents that you live and operate with every day, you think that's how everybody thinks. You don't realize that that is really your unique value. That's your unique operating model, right?
Yeah.
And so what I like to tell people is that first and foremost, find your superpower. And if you don't know, go talk to people. Go look at your old performance reviews and see what are those themes that other people are always saying about you. Then once you know what your superpower is, then you can say, okay, how does that superpower align to my boss's objectives? My boss's objectives. And then you can create your narrative. I cannot stress enough how important a narrative is.
Clear more about that.
We did this at Dell. So there were about 8 women. Now, we were all A players. We did not let any C players in our club. But there was a woman. Her name was Sharon. She was an engineer, mechanical engineer or electrical engineer. I can't remember. But she had an undergrad from Cornell and she had a master's from Northwestern. So smart woman, right? She told us about this experiment that had been done where you get a group of people together and everybody in the group communicates their narrative. So I would come to you and I'd say, okay, Priya, here's my narrative. This is what I want others to say about me when I'm not in the room. So we all shared 5 or 6 bullets, one sentence, like 5 or 6 sentences, easy one-liners that could be dropped in a meeting. So and we had people from sales operations, we had people from marketing, we had people from biz ops, we had different women in our club Do you know in 12 months, every single one of us were promoted, every one of us. And do you know, in my performance review, my narrative came back to me.
What you said, that was in your performance review. Wow.
What I fed the system.
Amazing.
I fed the system what I wanted the system to believe about me.
Wow.
And it came, my own words. I died laughing. I mean, I was sitting there at my performance review reading what my manager's writing, and I'm cracking up because I've just played the game. I just played the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that brilliant?
It's brilliant.
I know. And men do it all the time.
Why do you think women don't do it?
Because we are so relational. We're so relational, and we aren't generally the strategy thinker. You know, I'll tell you, this was years ago. I had opportunity to take my executive vice president. So my boss's boss, pick him up at the airport, take him to see my client. And his name was Bill. I talk about him in the book. And we're driving from the airport out to a customer meeting. So I have an hour and 15-minute one-on-one time with my boss's boss. And he's the executive vice. He reported to Michael Dell. That's how high up. Okay. And I said, Bill, let me ask you something. I said, I figured out you're probably about 7 years older than me. You are the executive vice president of this organization, reporting to Michael Dell. And I am a regional sales manager. What did you do so right and I do so wrong? I said, because I guarantee you, Bill, you did not outperform me because I've always exceeded my goals. I've always worked hard. I've always been top talent, exceeds expectations, all of that. He goes, well, Robin, first of all, great question. I love that question. Thank you for asking, you know?
Yeah.
He loved my curiosity, right? Yeah. And he said, first of all, don't think 7 years in technology is a lifetime. So don't think 7 years, that's like warp speed when you look at technology companies. He said, but aside from that, when I was 23 years old and I got my first job at IBM, I told my boss's boss that I wanted to be the CEO of IBM. And he said, they all laughed at me because I was 23 years old, right out of college. He said, but it set the direction for my career. And he said, so they knew anytime there was an advancement opportunity, I was called and asked.
Amazing.
He worked backwards from his vision. I never had a vision. I never sat down and said, by 40, I want to be blank. So of course I didn't get there because
most women are coasting along. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so, and then I had a boss once when I said, hey, why'd you give Danny that job? He said, well, I didn't know you wanted it. I said, how do you mean you didn't know I wanted it? I've been doing this job, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, I knew Danny wanted it. I didn't know you wanted the job.
Wow.
So these are the types of things that I want, you know, I just want to get a hold of women in their early careers. And I want to share all of this so that they can accelerate their careers and just play the game better.
And then what said too, if you learn to play the game, and it sounded like you're running to hit the people in their 20s and 30s before you're getting to this period where you've already lost yourself. Yeah. But get that one thing that I love that you said is that you can get through this without losing yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can. And you might lose yourself for a while. Like, I mean, you know, I've never been on a road trip when I haven't lost my way a little bit. Exactly. You know, where's the fun? Oh, I tell my kids, all the good stories are all the screw ups. Don't ever forget that. Because every vacation that you ever have a screw up, it's always the screw ups that are the great stories. But yeah, I mean, I did lose myself. I lost myself for a long time. But once it started clicking and I learned and I observed and I learned how important operating in your superpowers, creating your narrative, it's not about who I know, it's about who knows me. That's why, you know, having that small group of people that will say your one-liners, right? In all those meetings, it works. I'm telling you, it works.
This is amazing. Everybody has to get their hands on this book. So this book
It's
is for
fun.
anyone, not even if you're not in corporate America. It's just, it seems like this can help anyone along that journey.
Yeah, and then the final part of the book is about health, and it's really emotional, spiritual, because health, your body, nobody cares about their body until they hit 50, and then all of a sudden your body becomes really important, and then you're like, what? All this baggage and all this stress I've been carrying? What do you mean it's having a negative impact on my body? And I say in the book that the first time you lay on your couch and you think, who am I? What is wrong with me? I cannot will myself to get up and get going, I guarantee you, you're about to start menopause. Like that is your first signal that, like, whenever it is, when you are sitting at your computer at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you can't remember your name, you can't put together a complete thought, you hit the snooze button 45 times because you just slept 10 hours and you still are tight. Like all of these things, when you think, not myself, who is this person?
Right.
That is just FYI. Go to the doctor. You are entering the next 10 years of hell. So you just need to go start. But the first thought, because I had those thoughts and I just thought, well, I'm getting old. I'm tired. I've gained a bunch of weight. My babies are all leaving the house. My dad passed away. So, but no, my body was going through perimenopause and I did at 46. I was 46 when all that happened.
Yep. Same here.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And then financial health. I talk about financial health because here again, I met with a financial advisor in my 20s and he wanted me to put away $3,000 a month. And I thought that was I couldn't even fathom putting away $3,000 a month. And so it scared me and intimidated me. And from then on, I never went back and met with a financial advisor. I am a career corporate gal doing billion-dollar deals, earning a lot of money. And I did not I just put money in my dad told me 10% in savings, 10% you give away, and 10% into your 401k. And you will be set. Well, guess what? That's not true. Because now here I am, a grandma. I would love to take a step back and not work. And my financial advisor, which I finally got, not until a few years ago, but I finally got a financial advisor. He goes, Robin, all of your money, you can't get all that until you're 65 or something. He's like, all your money, you don't retire when I'm 65. I want to retire now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I give women, don't worry about the 3,000. Put 50. Start with 50. Start with 100. And if you meet with a financial advisor and that financial advisor tells you 3,000 and you can't do 300, go find another one. Keep talking to financial advisors until you find someone that will listen to you where you are. And I even give charts. Even if it's $50, if you're $50 at 25, guess what? That is meaningful.
Yeah. Definitely.
By the time you're 55.
So that education goes a long way. And I think you also, whether it's a financial advisor or a doctor, find somebody that is willing to listen to you. You don't just take the first person that's telling you, do this, do this, do this. Like, do your research.
I've been to so many doctors over the holistic health, and I go to doctors and I love doctors. I think MD doctors are wonderful. I love to go to them and get my diagnosis. And then I take my diagnosis and I go somewhere else to help me heal myself.
Exactly. I'm very similar in that way. And I think what you bring up too, a lot of women rely on the partner to deal with the money and the financial and the retirement. So then when it comes time, whether you're getting out of a relationship or divorced, then you're left. My financial advisor says most of her clients are divorced women and they're coming to her like, I didn't know how to do any of this. They're either divorced or widowed and like they handled everything. So I think the fact that you're offering that education is huge, huge.
And I had my financial advisor actually look at everything that I put in the book because, the publisher was like, look, we can't actually take like Morgan Stanley stuff and put it in there. But I'm like, look, I told my financial advisor, I'm like, look, you're making a lot of money off of me now every year. So you need to help me make sure that I tell women all the things that we really want them to know. And so he looked over it for me and he was like, yeah, this is all really good advice, Robin. I'm happy with it. It's, being a woman, if you're in a room full of women, and I'll tell you the story. I have Christmas brunch at my house for my neighborhood women. There's this one neighbor. I don't like her. We are like oil and water. I mean, we are so different, but we were sitting at the table and we were chatting and we were talking. She's a homeschool mom. I barely got my kids out of school. I barely got my kids to where they're supposed to be. I'm a corporate gal, right? She's raising chickens and eggs and making sourdough. And we could not be two more different humans, right? But she's smart. I mean, I respect her because I know how hard all of those things that she's doing. And I'm just talking and telling stories and chatting, and she says, "You should really write a book, Robin. I mean, it's fascinating to listen to you talk, and you have so many stories." And I really took that I took that to heart. I hear her voice of all people out there, this woman, neighbor that I really am not friends with. I hear her voice in my head oftentimes when I started writing this book. And so part of why I'm saying that is that you never know who is going to speak something
absolutely
into your life, right?
Yeah,
and like the
definitely.
financial advisor. And if you're sitting around that table with midlife women, I promise you, at least once, if not more, you will hear them say, "God, I wish I would have known that when I was 25.
Absolutely.
God, I wish I would have known that when I was 35.
Yeah.
Right? You hear it over and over. And so I kept hearing those women at that brunch table saying that. And then this woman that I'm not real good friends with saying, "Robin, you should write a book." And so I took both of those voices, and
you have a beautiful
that's
book.
what we have.
Amazing. So, and that being said, how can people access your book? How can people access you and get in touch with you? Because you're a resource for so many women out there.
Well, thank you. My website is therealrobingoad.com.
I love that name.
And you can book a free 30 minutes on my calendar. I have 2 days a week that I give time, and it says book your superpower session. So if people don't know their superpower, if they want to talk about anything, doesn't matter. It's free time to just try to build this community of like-minded women, multi-generational. So you can click on that. You can find my book on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, all the places. But from my website, you can also get my LinkedIn. You can get my Facebook and Instagram and all those things. But I'm just excited. I have more energy. I went through a lull. I'm a high energy person. I've got, 4 kids, corporate girl, traveling all over the world. I operate at high octane, except during those lulls when my health was messed up or different things. But right now at 54, doing all of this, playing the corporate game, I'm still playing the corporate game. But it's easy now.
It's easy.
It's easy now. I want everybody to realize how easy it is to play.
And hopefully it just keeps getting easier and easier. Because
I know.
Oh, I love it. I feel like I want to connect with you and learn about the game too. Yeah. So we'll make sure to put those links in the show notes so that anybody who's listening to this episode can access that and get in touch with you. And so in closing, there's a woman listening to this episode saying, "Hey, that's me," or they feel stuck, overlooked, exhausted, or they're just in this cycle of constantly trying to prove themselves, especially at work, especially if they're in corporate. What would you say to her?
First of all, I would say, sit down for a second and breathe. Look yourself in the mirror and think of all the positive things that make you who you are. Think about all the lies. I want you to take those lies captive. Whatever those thoughts are that are overwhelming you, that's probably a lie. That is probably a lie. I want you to take that thought captive and get rid of it. And then I want you to think about what you can control and then operate in that.
Beautiful way to end and beautiful words to close this episode. Thank you so much, Robin, for being on with me. This really embodied unmuting, especially at midlife.
Thank you. This was great. I love this podcast.
Thank you.
I do some podcasts and it's these guys that want to talk about all the corporate stuff, and that's great. That's fine. But I feel like as women, We are complex. I know. I mean, we are complex beings. And you add in the work, the mom, the wife, the aging parents, all the things. I mean, we are pretty badass.
We
I
are
mean, we
freaking
really
badass.
are.
Yep, we are. That's amazing. This
But
episode might
complicated.
this
But complicated. I know we're complicated.
maybe this podcast will change titles in the future as We Are Badass. So you might have planted something in my ear just the way that your neighbor planted something in your ear. So we'll see.
Like it.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.